Top 10 actors who had shocking on-set meltdowns. Judy Garland. Judy Garland remains one of the most beloved stars of Hollywood's golden era. But behind the bright smile and unforgettable singing voice was a woman under constant strain. Studios pushed her through exhausting schedules. On the set of The Wizard of Oz, she was barely a teenager, yet asked to work crushing hours. Cameras captured magic, but off-set, Judy often broke down, overwhelmed by pressure. Those moments showed how much was demanded of her at such a young age. She loved performing, but often felt trapped between childhood and stardom. Her struggles were not weakness, but a reminder of how much she was asked to give. Despite tears and stress, Judy continued forward, and her performances became timeless treasures. Laurence Olivier. Laurence Olivier was known for perfection. He could transform into kings, villains, or tragic heroes with uncanny brilliance. But such greatness came at a cost. While filming Shakespearean epics, his pursuit of flawlessness grew so intense that it wore on him and everyone around. Olivier once erupted in rage on set when colleagues failed to match his energy. His standards were near impossible. Crew members stood silently as the great master vented his frustration. Yet, even in anger, his power was undeniable. After such episodes, he often regained composure, delivering iconic scenes with unmatched presence. His fiery insistence on quality burned brightly, sometimes too brightly. What audiences saw was eternal artistry, even if creating it cost him moments of turmoil when perfection seemed just out of reach. Bette Davis. Bette Davis had eyes that could peer straight into a viewer's soul. She was fierce, bold, and unapologetic. On set, her temper was legendary. She did not tolerate laziness, dishonesty, or disrespect. During filming of All About Eve, her determination to shape scenes her way occasionally boiled over. Davis raised her voice, walked off set, and demanded excellence. These meltdowns, though fiery, were really passion unleashed. She carried the weight of every role like a crown, demanding others around her honor the same standard. And though tempers flared, the results were unforgettable performances that carried sharpness, wit, and truth. Bette's outbursts became part of her myth, proof she was unwilling to compromise artistry. Her stormy presence left audiences in awe. Montgomery Clift. Montgomery Clift was soft-spoken, intense, and deeply private. Yet beneath the quiet surface was a turbulence that sometimes spilled over during filming. Clift carried emotions like heavy stones, so when directors pushed too hard, he cracked. On certain sets, his frustration would erupt in raw outbursts. He hated insincerity, both in acting and in life. Every scene had to carry honesty. If it didn't, he made sure the world knew. These collisions with directors and co-stars were difficult, but they birthed performances breathtakingly real. Clift's so-called meltdowns were moments when his heart simply spilled out. To watch him act was to witness vulnerability in motion. Few stars have ever given so much of themselves on screen, sometimes at the expense of peace behind the scenes. Marlon Brando. Marlon Brando changed acting forever. His style was different, natural, alive, and explosive. But genius doesn't always arrive neatly. On set, he could be unpredictable. During the production of Apocalypse Now, Brando tested patience. He arrived unprepared, arguing about scripts, improvising wildly. Frustration between Brando and crew sparked sparks you could almost hear. Some called it meltdown, others called it raw creation. His moods could swing quickly: anger, laughter, silence. Yet he transformed chaos into brilliance. That towering figure in the shadows of Coppola's camera, that was Brando's unruly spirit, turning frustration into cinematic legend. His outbursts weren't emptiness, they were fuel for art that still shakes audiences today. His storms made way for unforgettable lightning. Elizabeth Taylor. Elizabeth Taylor's beauty captured the world, but her iron will was just as striking. On set, she carried herself with confidence, but there were moments when tension cracked her calm. Cleopatra became infamous not only for its grandeur, but for its behind-the-scenes clashes. Elizabeth, pushed to exhaustion and battling health issues, fought fiercely with producers when demands became unbearable. Her explosions weren't vanity, they were survival. She defended herself when others tried to reduce her to a mere image of glamour. Those fiery moments reminded everyone she was not just beauty, but power. Her vulnerability and fury intertwined, shaping her legend. Elizabeth's meltdowns revealed a woman unwilling to be broken. She burned bright, defying every attempt to silence her strong, soaring spirit. Richard Burton. Where Elizabeth Taylor walked, Richard Burton often followed, and the fire between them lit countless headlines. Burton's voice alone carried the power of a king, but his temper matched it. On set, when nerves frayed or emotions ran high, Burton could erupt. Friends described him as volcanic. Shooting films beside Elizabeth only intensified things. Their fights and reconciliations sometimes spilled into their work, blurring reality and performance. Outbursts from Richard were as grand as his Shakespearean deliveries, a man consumed by passion, unwilling to hold back a single ounce. Challenges with directors were inevitable, but Burton's depth shone in final results. His temper was lightning, dangerous but illuminating, leaving audiences with a strange, thrilling energy that echoed long after the credits rolled. Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe radiated light on screen, yet behind that glow rested delicate shadows. Sets bore witness to her struggles. Directors often grew frustrated, but Marilyn was fighting her own storms: nerves, self-doubt, and endless pressure. She sometimes broke down, unable to deliver lines as expected. Crew members waited hours as she wrestled with her emotions. These moments became known as meltdowns, but perhaps they were simply cries for space and kindness. And when she prevailed, magic happened. Her fragility deepened her characters with tenderness. She embodied joy tinged with sorrow, timelessly touching. Marilyn's on-set struggles weren't weakness. They were the cost of giving so much of herself, so vulnerably, to audiences. Her haunting beauty and humanity live on, transcending every storm she faced. James Dean. James Dean lived fast, burned bright, and left too far too soon. On set, he brought with him both charm and defiance. Directors cherished his talent, but braced for his unpredictability. Sometimes he rebelled openly, walking off or refusing direction if it felt dishonest. Dean's meltdowns weren't tantrums, they were explosions of spirit, railing against anything false. He wanted truth in every gesture, every line. The intensity sometimes rattled co-stars and crew, yet the camera adored him. His anger, his passion, his turmoil, they all fed into performances raw and unforgettable. Dean's short life gave us only 3 major films, but his restless energy made him eternal. His on-set eruptions were the fire of authenticity itself, flickering forever in movie history. Vivien Leigh. At the top, we find Vivien Leigh, whose artistry in Gone with the Wind and Streetcar Named Desire stunned the world. Behind her luminous eyes, however, was constant struggle. On set, her emotions sometimes became too powerful to control. She fought inner battles that left her drained and bewildered. To colleagues, her breakdowns seemed like meltdowns, flashes of despair and intensity that halted filming. Yet those same torrents gave her characters haunting truth. Vivien's storms were not weakness, but echoes of sensitivity, both gift and burden. She lived and worked with a fragility that cut deeply, often more deeply than Hollywood knew how to handle. But it was that fragile fire that gave us Scarlett O'Hara, Blanche Dubois, roles that remain eternal testaments to her soul.